One more minute, everybody, and then I'll start. Thank you.
I'm just moving my phone out because it's linked and people by trying to call me. I'm just moving it out. Sorry about that, but it never stops here at the moment.
It's okay. I think we've 46 participants now. 80 have registered, so I hope they'll keep joining. So I think we'll start just to keep to the time we said. So everyone can hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Sharon Keohane, Business Development Manager with Ludgate, and delighted to welcome you to our first Ludgate Presents webinar. I hope you and your families are doing okay during this time. We have, as I said, 80 plus registered for the event, so really thrilled with the interest in the subject. And the subject is e-commerce and maximising your revenue potential. So we'll be recording the event, and there'll be a post-event survey straight after, if you'd be kind enough to complete that. We will also send out a recording of the event to you on email, and we have put our panelists' contact details, or we will be doing that in a few minutes, in the chat area, should you wish to reach out to them after the event in relation to your own businesses and objectives. So just to give you an overview of the event, we have 3 speakers, as you see on screen, whom I'll introduce in a moment, and I'll be asking them general and specific questions related to their subject and expertise area. We also have 4 polls pre-prepared, which we will launch intermittently, so they'll just appear up on screen. I would encourage you to complete, and we will try and share the results as we go along as well. So those polls will stay up for about 90 seconds. So we will go until about 1 p.m, where I will then turn to some questions from you, the audience. So I'd encourage you to input your questions as we're going along, and we will try and address as many of them as possible as we can later. But I'd ask you to put them in the Q&A section and not the chat section. We won't be using the chat section. So we want to hear as much as possible from our panelists and not from me. So I'm going to introduce them now briefly. First of all, we have Bharat Sharma, founder and CEO of Ireland's award-winning enterprise e-commerce agency, Monsoon Consulting, and a regular visitor to Ludgate. Joan Lucy, managing director of award-winning Vibes and Scribes stores in Cork City and from Macroom. And last but not least, Seamus White, co-founder and director at award-winning Granite Digital from Clonakilty. So they're all award-winning. We're surrounded by award winners today, which is fantastic. So thanks for your time. I'd also like to thank Seamus and the Granite Digital team for their assistance in the redevelopment of our website, which will be launched in the coming days. We're very excited about that. And I just want to say sincere thanks to Granite for their pro bono assistance with this. So just to give some context to the subject, when legendary US bank robber Willie Sutton was asked why he robs banks, he famously replied, because that's where the money is. Same can be said as to why more and more businesses are going online, because that's where the customers are. So some data from Wolfgang Digital, who are printing weekly blogs online on online sales, said that April's online retail revenue was almost treble that of pre-COVID sales. And e-commerce is estimated to be about 16% of overall retail. So that's from a data set of about 100 retail and travel e-commerce merchants of various sizes. So that's the context. Let's get started. Let's get our panelists talking. I'm going to ask each of them now to introduce themselves and their businesses, to take 1 minute each to do that. And then we'll start off with some questions. So Bharat, if I start with you and if you give us your overview. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me clear? If my voice is clear to everyone? Great. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm really looking forward to share my experience as well, and looking to share and answer your questions if anyone has one. So my name is Bharat Shah. I'm the CEO and founder of Monsoon Consulting. We are one of the largest e-commerce companies in Ireland and UK. We are serving some of the biggest merchants and brands. Quite privileged to have these names on my portfolio, but brands like One for All in Ireland, Liverpool Football Club in UK, Woody's in your neck of the wood, Kilkenny Shop. So we have some really nice brand to work with. And likewise, in the B2B domain, we are serving clients like Uniphar Pharmacy, Palace Food, Topline, Heat Merchant. So what we do as a business is we are pure breed e-commerce company. We engage with our clients at the very early stages, and we try to help them out to set up what is they really need if they're looking for an e-commerce shop. So we start at very, very early stage engagement when they might not have nothing, or they might not be as IT tuned as they are great in their own business. So we help them to set up what they really need to figure it out. Then once we figure it out, then we help them to do that job, and we set the website for them. And then once we have done the website or e-commerce shop for them, then we help them to make sure they maximize their investment on e-commerce, and they have huge growth and revenue coming from the digital or online media. So that's our job. We have 3 offices. I have team based in Dublin, I have team based in London, and I have another team of engineers based in Ukraine, in Kiev. And that's me, and I'm excited here, looking forward to talk to you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Bharat. Thanks, Bharat. And Seamus, yourself next.
Seamus White's the name. I'm one of the founders of Granite Digital. We were founded in Skibbereen, actually, about 11 years ago, and we now have 4 or 5 offices. Main offices in Dublin, is in Cork. We have another similar sized office in Dublin, office in Galway, and then we have teams in Portugal and Romania. Our service is more general. It's digital transformation, anything digital in terms of what a business needs to take it from where it is today to the upcoming digital revolution.
Thanks, Seamus. And Joan, finally, Joan, at the cutting edge of I suppose, implementing what Bharat and Seamus develop.
Hello, I'm Joan Lucy of Vibes and Scribes, and I have 2 bookshops on the quay, a second-hand bookshop and a new bookshop, which are both closed. And I have a crafting supply shop in Bridge Street, which is closed. And part of that business was an online shop, which was Vibes and Scribes Online, which was servicing our crafting supply customers. The reason we went into that was because of customer demand. And now, presently, we are seeing it just has got so busy. I can't tell you the multiples of orders we're getting in comparison. And so it's like setting up a totally new business. But fortunately, we've a lot of help and support. And without going to, maybe for the introduction, that's probably enough. I can tell you about that later.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Joan. So I have an opening general question for all of you. And it's like literally the last 6 to 8 weeks have been just totally different to what's gone before. So can you tell me what way business has changed for you specifically? What have you observed from your different perspectives over the last six to 8 weeks? Start with you, Bharat, again.
Just unmuting myself. So it's different world, Sharon. Yeah, it's kind of there's a pattern we are seeing. There seems to be emerging. So the March for us was, sorry, apologies, I just get this call. The March was for us almost like a bit of a panic station. A lot of our clients didn't know what's going on, and there was a genuine concern about the disruption and in the lifestyle of all of us, as well as in the businesses it has caused. Then I'm seeing the pattern of kind of April, May, where suddenly people started finding their feet, and they're saying, you know what, we can sustain this. And it's amazing to see the creativity and great ideas, entrepreneurs and their team is coming out, trying to circumvent the situation we are. And then now I can sense a fair bit of a kind of a, let's get stuck into the action and how we're going to get out of this situation. So there seems to be a fair optimism or resolve around the people. So that's the kind of a pattern. For us, obviously, working from home is fun, especially when you're a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid. So we are kind of adjusting to the new lifestyle. But the work point of view, what I've noticed is a lot of my big projects which was especially for the B2C sector, I was just about to launch a B2C site for a very large airlines industry client, and fashion retail area, it's just seized. So, everyone is nervous. They're not spending big money. However, what I'm noticing is, and then UK clients, I think Irish government has done a great job when it comes to policy and business continuity. But in UK, a lot of staff has been furloughed, so they couldn't have the business as usual. Things were seized. So there was a bit of a negative spiral coming down from that point of view. But what I'm noticing now is that client is coming, and we are literally talking to our clients on a daily basis, the boardroom members, which we have never spoken for years. But now we are coming up with the creative ideas and saying, hey, have you thought about a small little microsite which could just sell COVID-19 special products if you are a DIY or pharmacy sector? Have you thought about home delivery, even if you are a B2B clients? So what I'm noticing is that it's the resilience of human being or the creative ideas. And we are trying to add a lot of small little tweaks. So we're not having the big project, but we are amazingly busy helping our clients who, some of the clients are sustaining huge amount of traffic, bigger than Christmas deals every day. But then even if clients are not getting big profit because or big revenue because they're from a different sector, it's the creative help we're trying to offer to them. So I think we all are just trying to renovate ourselves and finding a way to kind of sustain this. And it's amazing, we are learning every day, and it's a lot more exciting because it's a lot different than a bog standard. And I'm quite optimistic for me and my clients and the market going forward.
Okay. Thanks, Bharat. That's great that you're optimistic and you're learning every day. And particularly what you said about people becoming innovative in terms of hardware stores and garden centers. People are crying out for things to do, so they're really jumping on that and ensuring they're still getting revenue. So that's great. So, Seamus, what about you and your business?
Yeah, I suppose you can't really put the last 8 weeks into one category because, as Bharat said, it has changed from the first few weeks where there was a lot of panic. I suppose for us, we're lucky. It's been business as usual in a way, even though we've moved from 4 or 5 offices to effectively nearly 60 offices. All client meetings are being done now, obviously remotely by Google Meet or Zoom. We were lucky in that we were using those tools anyway. So we were basically, from the day the announcement was made that schools were closing, we were up and running, working from home the next morning. So we were lucky from that way. Looking at our customer base, then different sectors have been impacted in different ways. We have a lot of clients in the hospitality sector, particularly hotels, who just hibernated from day one. They're understandably so. They've stopped all advertising, etc. I suppose they're getting some clarity now on when they can reopen or plan to reopen. So we are seeing a little bit of activity come back there. Business to business, again, similar to ourselves, a lot of them are just getting on with it. Obviously doing the remote thing, but getting on with it, again, depending on who their customer base is. But retail has been transformed. It's the retailers have had to shut their doors, but yet a lot of them have kept going. Doing it and trading virtually, and it doesn't necessarily mean by e-commerce right now because they had to get up and running in a hurry. It may be over the phone, by email, by Facebook message. But they've been very innovative in how they have approached it. We even had two customers who had online retail platforms who actually asked us to turn off the ability to sell because they just could not cope with the number of orders. They just needed a break to catch up, which is the other extreme. They were too busy. So it's a broad range of reactions, to be honest.
Okay, thank you, Seamus. And Joan?
Well, in March, we were just getting ready to launch a separate website for the US to do with organic wool that we're producing. So because of that, I had actually just employed a new e-commerce marketing manager, and I'd also had done more work with Studio 49. So I was well placed. Our own online shop, the Vibes and Scribes online shop, was just about 10% of our business, and it was trucking along nicely, and we were just building it slowly. And I hadn't huge not major expectations of it. I felt Ireland is a small market, and really, I felt after Brexit we probably couldn't break into Britain with our crafting supplies. And then this hit us. And suddenly it just, like, the sales just went, I couldn't describe the multiples. And the shops were closed. So I pulled everybody in together, all the people who worked in the bookshop, the people who worked in the second-hand shop, and everybody. And we all just sat together about just servicing this amazing sort of insatiable appetite of a monster, nearly, but a welcome monster. Like, maybe I wouldn't call it a monster, but it was like we turned the shop into a warehouse. It is now a warehouse. Unfortunately, it's on 5 floors, so everybody now is extremely fit because we're up and down, up and down. We have changed our processes. We've improved things. As I say, we were lucky because the level of business we were doing on our existing craft shop wouldn't have justified having an in-store e-commerce manager, and she just arrived in the middle of all this mayhem and has been fantastic. And Studio 49 have again been there for us. So we've been able to stay open. We've been able to service the orders. It's been major pressure. I've taken on 4 extra staff, as well as all the staff from the other shops. And I was just determined to keep going and to keep servicing the customers, keep looking after them. And, you know, I admit it's been exhausting, and it's like setting up a new business, but it's also been very satisfying because, you know, it's amazing.
Yeah, and you're probably the business that really had to adapt the most, Joan, you know. And if I stay with you and just say, you started with bricks and mortar bookstores, and you diversified into arts and crafts, fabrics, haberdashery. Why did you do that? And is it because of the whole Amazon e-book
Well, you know,
coming out?
The book business was being challenged, and I had I was looking to expand, and I knew I just couldn't expand on its own. So it sort of just grew itself. I sort of set up a bookshop that had more art, architecture, design. It was meant to just have crafting supplies. The crafting supplies became knitting and sewing, and it just, as you kept looking out for more opportunities, basically what I would say about, I'm a shopkeeper, and that's what I like doing best, and that's what I'm best at. And so I like to offer the best product I can at the best price. And so, and maybe look around for things that maybe the multinationals don't do. You know, you like the second-hand books, as opposed to, you know, you won't get multinationals doing that. In the same way for the crafting business. So I suppose I just use my skills as a shopkeeper that I'm now trying to use at the moment for the online shop. It's not all the skills you need. Of course, you need all the digital skills, which fortunately I had good support for. So it's just a matter of, you know, you're evolving all the time. Like, I'm used to change. So when this happened, even though it's been absolutely huge change, I would say the biggest change in the quickest time, and like bringing a team of people who are used to serving customers and, you know, showing people how to do things, and a lot into demonstrations and workshops, suddenly to packing and picking. But actually we have a very strong team now. We've all sort of survived it, so we're all working away together.
Yeah, you've just adapted to what was in front of you and just ran with it. Yeah. So Seamus, just to go back to you in terms of how people go online, they go on through their phones and their websites, and you do a lot of website development. And I'm just wondering, that websites and how they visually represent to a customer, they're changing all the time, you know, and evolving. So what are the current trends in websites? You're mute, Seamus.
Oops, sorry. No. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I suppose we kind of have to be careful with following trends as such, because our creative director, John Callan, always says that if a design is based on the latest trends, it's guaranteed to look old next year. And it's a very valid point. So what we tend to look at is the evolution in user behavior, and how they are digesting content online. Users they're becoming more educated, but patience is reducing. I think people read slower on screens anyway than they do in print. So therefore that patience thing means that you even have less time to grab their attention. Research would say that people read in patterns on the screen. They consume short, bite-sized words. So you have to be very conscious of the content format you're using. You need to catch their attention. They'll read more if you catch their attention with the headings and things like that. But you have to do that. You also need to be conscious of what type of customer you have. We have, for a business to consumer website, for example, we're seeing generally about 70% of the traffic is on mobile. So, and to be honest, we've one jewelry client who stands out that they would have about 90% of their visitors to their website would be on mobile around Valentine's Day, for example. So, you know, you have to think mobile for them, but you can't be blinkered by that either, because we've some business to business websites that would be up to 80% desktop. So, you know, you have to understand the customer you're trying to target as well. I suppose one of the other evolutions and trends though is personalization and making the experience contextual to what we know about the user on the website as they become regular users of your website, creating what we call data lakes to build that profile and knowledge on user behavior and building the future state of the website through that.
Okay, so I kind of got from that patience and personalization, and definitely patience is reducing. I think I read somewhere that you have people's attention for 8 to 15 seconds, kind of max, is what I've heard. It's just reducing all the time. I just might move then so to Bharat, just to lead on from that in terms of the user, let's say. And Bharat, could you tell us, in your view, what are the differences between a B2B and a B2C customer, and how does that come through during the buying process in terms of behavior?
Well, thanks, Sharon. And I think Seamus kind of touched a little bit on the personalization part and the user's need part. So B2B and B2C users are two very different user groups, and their requirements, the way they behave, the way they need to complete their user journey is completely different. So B2C user is traditionally a person who wants to buy something nice. That person normally wants to buy for themselves. And they are the people who have a lot of time to dwell upon. You know, they might like to research a product using their tablet and phone when they're going to the work or on a bus. They might like to add to the wish list. They might like to just come back to it, do a shopping, or sometime in the real omni-channel experience, after doing all the research, they might end up going to the shop and buy the product which they were researching on their mobile and tablets anyway. And they tend to buy for feeling good, or normally it's an optional purchase, which they do in a limited capacity. So they would be buying a few products at a time. Whereas if you look at the B2B buyers, a lot of people are not buying because they want to do it. They need to do it. So it's a compulsive buying experience they need to do. The B2B buyers are normally under pressure because this is part of their job. You know, they could be buying it either for themselves or buying for other departments, but they're doing a lot of other activities, you know, so unless you are a very large company and you're a procurement expert, but if you are a chef, if you are a plumber, and if you need to replenish your pantries for the next day's menu, or if you're a plumber and if you need to go and fix a boiler or going to a building site, you're doing a full day job. And then you want to make sure that you have material ready for the next day. So B2B buyers are compulsive need to buy people. And B2C guys are the one, they do research. B2B guys normally tend to know their product already. They also, in a lot of time, they also know the best supplier available. So it's not about researching loads of sites. It's about getting that purchase done as soon as possible in the most convenient way with the least time spent. And they could be buying up to tens or hundreds of products depending on the size of the business. So it tends to be kind of a bulk buying. The other difference is B2C buyers would use credit card. Typically, they're paying online, whereas B2B buyers, a lot of them would use monthly invoice. So checkout doesn't mean a credit card step for them. They might be just based on their credit ratings, they would have a relationship with their supplier, and you're just replenishing. You're doing a lot of repeat orders based on your pantry requirements or your set menu for the week. So they just keep going, keep repeating the orders, doing hundreds of products, make a big shopping basket and check out and say, please send it to my office premises or where they are. So two very, very different user requirements and needs.
Yeah, that's very clear. Thanks for explaining those, Bharat. Just a reminder to the audience out there to input some questions. Don't see too many in there yet, so I'd really encourage if you have a particular question for any of our panelists to put it in there now. So Seamus, just back to you quickly, because I know the government has been responsive in terms of setting up a COVID-19 online retail scheme from Enterprise Ireland. So and I think there's a closing date coming soon on that. So in case anyone's interested, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a scheme that was launched 2 weeks ago, and the closing date for applications is actually tomorrow, 2 weeks, so the 27th of May. It's aimed specifically at retailers. It's for retailers who have effectively been impacted by the COVID-19 restrictions. The stipulations demand that the retailer must have at least 50% of their income from bricks and mortar retail, and they must have more than 10 employees. So it's very much about helping those retailers who were strong businesses but have been badly impacted by this, and helping them to take that journey online and to take that next step effectively to grow their business.
Okay, and they can find details on Enterprise Ireland for that if anyone wants to know more. Yeah,
absolutely. And I suppose it's aimed as well, not just at the current at solving the current issues. As we go forward, the environment is going to demand social distancing, so it's going to limit the number of people in shops. So even when they reopen, the online offering is going to need to be that safety valve, so that they can limit the number of people in store, but people can still see what's in the shop. They can plan in advance what they're going to buy, or they can buy it online.
Okay, thanks for that. So Joan, back to you in terms of branching out and making the decision to set up an online store. What were the learnings for you from when you started, and did you have high expectations at the start, and how did it all pan out for you?
Well, originally it's about 6 years ago now. I had been listening to my customers, customers who might be down from Dublin or other parts of Ireland, saying, we don't have a shop like this, would you go online? And this is totally now for crafting supplies. I have not considered it for books, because I don't believe that I myself or our business could compete with Amazon. But for the crafting supply business, I thought, yes, we can try and do this. And at the time, Dublin Chamber of Commerce were offering courses. So myself and two of my colleagues went to Dublin for maybe 6 mornings or 6 days, in consecutive weeks, and did these courses on how to set up an online shop. And there were different speakers, and we picked up what we picked up, and we came back and we set up our online shop. But it was a major learning experience, really, because we really probably didn't have a budget to call in any major developer to help us. There wasn't sort of interest in small business, setting up at that stage, or maybe the possibilities of how would we compete, as I felt, with the world, to make sure that our product could compete on price and an actual standard with the world. So we set up, and first time we picked a Magento platform that was dissolved within about less than a year, in about 6 or 7 months. I think it was called Magento Go. So we had to start all over again and pick another platform and build up again, and then realized our metadata wasn't great. And every step of the way there was learning and relearning. I think there's an awful lot more information out there now, and I think there's an awful lot more developers interested in startups now. And if you can find a developer that you can trust and work with, it's a great help. We did a lot of it ourselves. Now, the good team, we learned a lot from it. And then I suppose when we were getting ready to launch we would have, had there not been COVID-19, we were launching in the US this organic Irish wool that we've produced, which we just put that in stock. We haven't even looked at the project. I mean, I've forgotten nearly it exists, but at least all the help I put in place to help me with that is there now to help manage this very busy site we have.
Okay, and because it's arts and crafts and everyone's dying for something to do at night, it just makes total sense. There's people buying wool and crochet and knitting, and friends of mine are even doing it. So it's great that it's doing so well for you. But I think I read somewhere that you have about 10,000 products online. How do you manage that level of inventory and complexity?
Well, we are looking at new systems at the moment now that we've got so busy. But we had our shop stock, and we had a basic online shop. And we would pick from the shop stock, and then if we didn't have it in the shop anymore, we'd then reduce the online shop. So we always kept a sort of a basic online stock. I know it meant holding high levels of stock, but that's the sort of business we are. To get deals and to get the right price for things, I tend to buy in bulk. So we always had large quantities of stock anyway. Now I'm reviewing it because at the moment we're just operating from the one stock level. Like there's no shop stock anymore. There's just one big warehouse full of stock. Well, a shop that's now a warehouse. And we are looking at new systems now. And there's a few. I have a meeting tomorrow with someone who's going to put a proposal to me for a new system. I mean, if it works, I'm happy to tell people about it, but until I know. So until we open the doors, we're actually managing quite well with managing our stock.
Okay. All right, Bharat, back to you. In terms of, you support and deliver platforms for some of Ireland's well-known household brands, such as you said. You mentioned Woody's, DIY, One for All, Topline, Unifar. So what advice would you give any organisation looking to delve into B2B for the first time?
Sorry, can you hear me? I'm not mute. Okay, good. So look, to start with, first thing I would say is, I would like to congratulate anyone who has a business, who have done the biggest challenge and the hard work is to start, manage, and sustain a business. Doing anything on top of it, including setting up a B2B or B2C e-commerce site, is just another task. You might not be an expert into the digital area or IT, but we all entrepreneur knows that we are not expert in everything. When we need a specific help, when we need a specific expertise, we could always go out and hire that help. It's not rocket science. It's very simple to do. What I would suggest is there's three, like any projects or tasks we do as an entrepreneur or business person. We need commitments of time, we need commitment of resources, and we need commitment of budget. Once we have these three things in our place, the rewards of setting up something is huge. It could really multiply your profitability, save you a lot of efforts and cost in terms of your customer supports, accounting, sales service areas, upsell your sales, and improve customer loyalty. So if I'm setting up a shop, the way I would go about it is, first of all, I would make sure that I have reasonable time to do some basic research and understanding of what exactly I'm trying to achieve out of my B2B shop. Or I would like to have a coffee with someone who has done it. So if I know someone in my network, someone who is coming from IT side, or someone as a businessman has already done it, I wouldn't mind just reaching out to him or her for a kind of a basic guidelines. But personally, I feel either you yourself or someone in your business who knows your business, not IT, not e-commerce, but who knows your business and understand your products well. What are the attributes of your products? How much it costs? What's your margins? How many are they? How do you sell it? What your client are looking for that product information? What's your inventory looks like? How do you fulfill? How your pricing models? How do you market? Someone who has a basic idea and authority, if not have an idea, to kind of convey that message and ask the hard question from the team. So I will earmark one person and say, look, you are going to drive my e-commerce project for next level of time until it's achieved, or do it myself. So I would dedicate one internal person. Then I would look for an agency, a company who can help me to set up the product. And when I'm looking for agency, I will be looking for some basic attributes. First of all, that person should be able to talk to me in simple English. If someone comes and throw all the jargon about digitals and e-commerce and KPIs and God knows what, I wouldn't work with them, because you need to have the common sense, simple kind of a facilitation who can enable your business. It's not the other way. That agency also need to have the right kind of referenceability. You need to make sure that they are working with similar size of the businesses with the right kind of industry sector, and you should be able to pick a call to that their reference clients to make sure that you work with them. So I have internal ducks in the row, then I have an external agency identified. Then after that, what I would do is I would actually, working with the agency or anyone or you're doing internally, there's three stages. You need to discover what you're looking for. It should be aligned with your business objectives, what you're trying to achieve, what's your ambition. You need to then make sure that you get that job done within the reasonable time. And then obviously you need to maintain it. So it's a level of commitment. It's almost like you're opening a new store. So when you're opening a new store, you always need to do your basic research. You invest in that, and then you need to have staff and commitment to do it. It's exactly the same for e-commerce sites. If I was you, I would start small. So, you could do a lot of costs. It's like you're buying a car and someone asks me how much it costs me to buy a car. You could buy a Toyota Ferrari secondhand for a few €100 and still could use that to drop your kids and buy the basic groceries. And you could buy a Ferrari itself and it could spend hundreds of thousands. So it's a huge site. If I was you, it's almost like, let's learn the driving, let's get comfortable with it, start lean, start small, make sure you are fulfilling your most short-term objectives, which should be getting orders online today or as soon as possible. And all the bells and whistles can come later. So your brief to agency should be always saying, let's look at short-term goal with the view of the long-term vision. So I would go with that one. And then third part is just stay at it. It's very simple. There is loads of help available. There are a lot of good professionals out there. And one thing I've noticed in the last 3 months is you just need to ask for help. There's government, as Seamus just covered, there's government schemes for funding. And there are a lot of professionals, they're just happy to give it back. They're not even charging money. Like myself, Seamus, I'm very sure, if anyone needs a kind of a little brainstorming or a query, we are happy to take a call and walk you through how it happens, and always happy to give it back. So ask for help. Being quiet is not a good idea. I hope I've covered myself.
You've covered a lot there. That's a tutorial in itself, Bharat. Thank you very much. I'm just watching the time, and I'm just looking at some of the questions coming in. And before I leave you, Bharat, I just have to ask you about Liverpool Football Club, because there's a question coming in saying, can you secure the Premiership for Liverpool? The poor unfortunates and their online stores, they would have had a great success if everything had gone to plan. So how did you get that business, and where is it now with you?
Oh, it's a great story, Sharon. You wouldn't believe how it's been a journey. We've been working with them for about 2-3 years at this stage. We never thought we were going to get the contract. We bumped into them at 2 a.m., as we always do, 2 a.m. at a bar in London after a Magento event. End up talking to them, there was an Irish connection in the Liverpool Football Club management side. So that obviously helped us. And then we got ourselves invited for the tendering process, which was about to close next day. And within next week, we were in Liverpool pitching for the work, and the rest is the history. So it's been an amazing experience with them. We have seen a lot of ups and downs with them. We're maintaining their 20 countries, online sales in every possible language, including Arabic and Mandarin. Site could be absolutely crazy on a good match day. So championship nights, final. When it was in Ukraine, we were anticipating a huge amount of work. So we were all sitting around the computer hoping to get the site really busy. Nothing happened. We lost. But then last time we win, and we weren't anticipating so much traffic. So 2 a.m. there was about few thousand people trying to buy just one T-shirt, which they wanted to wear next day. So the traffic and spike of this business is absolutely amazing. The key again here is to anticipate when the traffic is going to come, prepare in advance, and make sure you have a contingency plan to scale and manage the things. But no, it's been a pleasure to work with them, and the guys in Liverpool e-commerce team has been absolute fun to work with. There's no ego involved. There's a lot of fun. So it's been a great story. Yeah, I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, and it must have been hard enough for you, because I think I read you were an Arsenal supporter.
That really broke my heart. So actually, the first time we signed the contract with them, Sharon, they beat us. Liverpool Football Club beat us 5-0. So it wasn't a great start for me. Very grumpy. And I got the corporate ticket box as well to go and watch it. That wasn't impressive.
Oh dear. Well, we have to wait and see what happens now with the whole Premiership. But Seamus, back to you. There's a question in there from Matthew Brownie, and it's a question I had for you anyway, in terms of, I suppose, he's saying, give me advice on drawing people to my website to purchase products. And I suppose, what's the quickest way to establish yourself in search engine results? We hear about SEO and PPC. Can you explain those and the benefits of those as website traffic building tools? Can you hear me, Seamus? Actually, we think we've just lost you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, me?
Yeah, you're okay.
Sorry, you froze. Everyone froze there. I'd say I'm back.
Did you get the
Um,
question?
yeah, I got the question. Sorry. I suppose the search engines are one way of getting people to your website for sure. I suppose everyone knows Google, being the predominant one, is the way people find what they're looking for online. And I suppose being in the search results when someone is looking for your product or service is critical. So that at the most basic level, SEO, search optimization, is about being found in the natural search results, and PPC is about the ads that are at the top of the page. SEO is a long-term strategy. You want to be found. It's not something that will happen overnight. So if you're just established, you would definitely need to consider PPC, the pay-per-click ads, Google ads for your short-term strategy, and possibly long if you're getting a positive ROI. But you definitely need to be in search engines. From a search engine optimization perspective, the quickest and most important basic thing you need to do is be descriptive of what you're selling or what service you're providing. For example, if we were to put homepage "Welcome to Granite" as our main thing, and you'd be surprised how many websites out there have home or homepage as their main title. Nobody goes online searching for a homepage, or nobody goes online searching for a welcome. You need, and Joan mentioned it earlier about the metadata. You need to make sure your metadata is descriptive of what you're selling. Describe what you actually want people are going to be looking for, and what you want them to find when they look for that. That's the most basic. I suppose there's lots of other things need to be done. I think you need to invest. Bharat already said you need to commit to your website, and we would say you need to invest in standing out. Content is important. If you just have the same content as another website, or you have very, very brief content on products or services, you're not going to stand out, and Google's not. It's being online is the same as being offline. You need to invest in your visibility and your brand, and being prominent and being different. And content is the way you do that online. Investing in good content that describes well, is useful to people. How-to guides and things like that. How to use your products, how to choose a service provider. That kind of content is very, very important.
So really putting in the legwork at the start in terms of metadata descriptions, it's very important. Otherwise, you're on I suppose a road to nowhere, really. So really putting in.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, not everyone will understand how to do that. And we or other agencies, as Bharat said, there's different criteria for picking agencies. We can help with that, but it is important to get it right first. Similar to if you're opening a shop for the first time on a street, you're going to invest in good shelving. You're going to invest in signage outside. You're going to invest in paint for the front. You're going to make it look good. For a website, you need to invest in your content. You need to get the structures right.
Okay. Just a final question. So we're coming out at the end of time. This is from Rita O'Connell. Do you think this would be an appropriate time to reconnect with customers, plans for the business going forward? Anybody want to take that one? An appropriate time to reconnect with your customers now? I suppose in the light of the government pathway. Yeah.
I would have thought it'd be important to stay connected with them all the time as much as possible. Even if your product isn't what's selling now at the moment. I mean, you can't be sending them newsletters every day, but I mean, you could at this stage send a video or in your newsletter to people saying that we are opening up again. These are the measures that we are going to implement. We're going to have screens. We're going to have, it doesn't have to be a very complicated video, just to reassure people, if you're bricks and mortar, that when they come back, or if you're online, that that you have a secure place for them to come to. And I suppose, and that you're still working hard, and you're there, and that you're going to be able to service their demands. I'd say,
yeah,
reach out. Good time.
And one final question, Joan, from Brona White saying, and you might have answered this already, so excuse me if you have, but do you have someone full-time looking after your 10,000 lines on the website and keeping them up to date? Or you did say someone had just started?
Yeah, well, like, it's not just looking after the lines. We now have the team. Like we used to have, we had a much smaller team running the online shop, and we just had the system in place. And I know it's really important to get your stock right, because if your stock isn't right, you're going to start running out of products, and you're going to waste a lot of time ringing customers, apologizing, getting them in bad humor with you, and trying to find an alternative for them. So it is important, but it doesn't always work perfectly. And you can imagine for us now, like we had a system that worked fine when we were doing 10% of our business online. Now we're doing 100% of our business online, and we have to improve the system. We had maybe 2 people working online and some people picking from the shop. Now we have 20 people, over 20 people working on the whole sort of project.
Okay.
And we could do with another 5, I'd say 4 or 5. But then you know that this level of business isn't going to keep up, and it's very hard to know where are we all going to be when people get out and are allowed out. How much of your new customers you'll keep, and you need to be working on that. And you hope you'll keep your old customers, but you know, there's a big uncertainty there.
Okay, thanks, Joan. And final question to all of you, kind of a closing question. This was because, sorry, where's my final question? Yeah, is this a catalyst for change, do you think? Will the change in behaviors be permanent? You know, have we set the reset button? Does that make sense? And who wants to take that first?
I'll go.
Yeah.
Sorry, Seamus, you want to go?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Bharat.
Okay. So I feel that, yes, I think it's time to really mull over and reset. I think what's happening with all of us as a society, as a human being, a living being, it has bound to have a long-term implications of our ways of living and our ways of doing trade or business. I feel it will change for good and for better. I believe that I think a lot of time online first would be the approach a lot of business will be looking at. A lot of business will make sure that for the business as usual or business continuity point of view, they always have remote working or work from home setup already in place. So I can see there is going to be a shift or a change of people's priority where, you know, retails are first bricks and mortars, but I think it's going to be more online, and there would be more investment and focus. And not only that, that would also change our family behavior, where we probably would spend more time with our loved one. We'll probably travel less and create less pollution, and we're probably a bit more mindful about the social distancing and respecting each other's space. So I think in the long term, it'll be better for all of us as a human being, but, you know, time will tell.
Okay, thanks, Bharat. And Seamus?
Yeah, I think a lot of things that were never thought possible turned out to be possible. You know, when the gun was put to people's head that you had to work from home, businesses found the way. I think that will lead to a revolution, a digital transformation as more businesses move to the cloud. Lots of businesses weren't ready for this. They might have had business continuity plans in place. As an extreme example, take a call center with 1,000 people working in it. They would have had a business continuity plan that said, if the building burns down, we can move to this other building. They never had. We actually moved to different locations, and while they got there, they're not working on robust platforms. They weren't ready. They didn't have their systems in the cloud. They didn't have the infrastructure. Like I know of a lot of people who are working with a laptop at home, stooped over it, using the little trackpad because they don't have a separate keyboard and mouse. Just little things like that. I think so. Businesses will, when we do get back to some kind of normality, businesses will plan for things like this into the future, so that the infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure is there as well. And I think, look, as Bharat said, social distancing is going to be here for a long time. So the way we do business is going to change, no matter what business you're in.
Thanks, Seamus. And Joan?
Yeah, well, I'd agree. I mean, there's huge changes ahead of us as well as behind us in the last 2 months. I think people have made a lot of sacrifices to abide by the rules and try and keep each other safe. And now we probably want to go out a bit more, but I think we have learned some lessons, and I do think like online is essential for businesses now. You know, like it may not keep at the level for the products that people are looking. You know, they say our business may not keep or won't keep at that level, but still we have to have a much stronger offering for our customers. I mean, I'm very aware, for instance, that we should have been offering more in, like we did a lot of workshops in the shop and demonstrations. We should be offering those online now, but we're just not ready, and we haven't got ourselves together because we've been too busy just fulfilling the orders. But that's the future for us. We're going to have to reach out for our customers. So that's just us as a very small business, how I can see so much more change for us. And even for customers coming into the shop, I see challenges there because we've a long, narrow shop, and I'm not sure how we'll manage to get customers in and in safely. So there's endless challenges, but like, you know, we're just going to have to get up and do it and get on with it, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, thanks, Joan. I actually attended one of your workshops on millinery hat making once, so great to hear you'll be doing more of that to try and create my creative side.
Good.
So I think it's time to bring it to a close, guys, because we're gone a bit over time, but we started a bit late. So I want to thank you, the audience, for your participation and engagement, and hope you found it of value, and you can take it away to think about it for your own businesses. And as I said, the panelists' details are in the chat, but we will send them out in an email afterwards with recording in case you want to go over some of the answers afterwards. I want to thank our generous sponsor AIB and our partners Skibbereen and District Chamber of Commerce. Thanks to Devidas for his behind-the-scenes tech support. I really appreciate it, Devidas, and to Elma and the Ludgate team as well. But most of all, to our panelists, Bharat, Joan, and Seamus. Thanks so much for your insights, guys. And to everybody, we look forward to seeing you all at Ludgate in the future as we plan our reopening. Thanks and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.